Elena's journey. From faith to the gilded cage, nestled among the gray-green hills of northern Vermont, the monastery stood like a timeless sanctuary. Its ancient stone walls, wrapped in moss-covered tiled roofs, echoed with the steady chime of chapel bells each morning and evening. In this serene haven, a young woman named Elena, with amber eyes and a voice as pure as an angel's, had found peace for 10 years. She arrived at 16, left at the gates of a small parish church in Concord after her mother abandoned her. Sister Clara, the first to cradle the frightened girl, would often say with soft eyes, "God doesn't let any rose fall into thorns. He brought you here, Elena." For a decade, Elena lived like a beam of light within those solemn stone walls. She embroidered, cooked, swept the courtyard, and sang at every Sunday Mass. Her voice, clear as a mountain spring, often moved the elder nuns to tears. But one crisp autumn day, as golden leaves swirled across the monastery grounds, a sleek black Bentley rolled up to the front gate, an unusual sight in this remote countryside. A man stepped out, his leather shoes gleaming, a dark brown cashmere coat draped over his shoulders, and a calm smile untouched by the dust of life. "Good day, sisters," he said, bowing, his eyes bright and intense as they scanned the surroundings. "I'm Alexander Bennett, chairman of the Eternal Light Foundation. We're sponsoring the restoration of the old chapel." Sister Clara smiled warmly. "Oh, yes, we received your letter. Please, come in. Let Elena make you some tea." Elena bowed to the unfamiliar guest. Alexander's gaze lingered on her face, longer than necessary. His voice was soft but commanding. "Your name is Elena. Such a beautiful name. It means radiant light, doesn't it?" "Yes, sir," she replied, her voice trembling slightly. "But I'm just a novice." "No," he said with a smile. "You are a rose among cold stones." In the days that followed, Alexander visited the monastery often, under the pretense of overseeing the renovations. He brought leather-bound Bibles, new church pews, and a pure brass bell for the chapel. But his eyes never left Elena. "I used to be lost," he whispered to her after one prayer service. "Then I heard your voice, and it was as if God was trying to tell me something." "I'm just a humble girl, Mr. Alexander," she said. "Do you really think you were born to live behind these stone walls, Elena?" he asked. "You were born to feel, to live like a real woman. Life is more than hymns." Elena resisted, though uncertainty crept in. Conversations about love, truth, and beauty began to shake her soul. "If God is love," Alexander said one sunset, "then why would he forbid us from loving each other?" One night, in the quiet prayer room, Elena trembled as she confessed to Sister Clara, "I've lost control of my heart. I want to leave the monastery." Sister Clara's voice broke. "Elena, you are Vermont's hope. You are God's child." "But I'm also a woman, sister," Elena replied. "I want to know the world beyond these walls, even just once." On the day Elena left, Sister Clara and several nuns escorted her to the gate. Their eyes were red, but no one tried to stop her. Alexander's Bentley door opened, and he waited inside with a gentle smile, his hand extended as if offering a new world. Elena stepped in, her brown novice gown still dusted with earth. As the car turned onto the highway, she glanced back one last time. The Vermont monastery vanished behind the cypress trees. "I'm doing the right thing, right?" she whispered. No one answered. Boston appeared like a golden dream. Alexander's mansion sat in the pristine, white-stoned outskirts of Beacon Hill, with a dragon-ornamented iron gate, a fountain in the yard, and servants in crisp black uniforms. A woman stood waiting at the gate, holding a tablet, her hair pinned up, lips painted blood red. "I'm Claire Whitmore, in charge of Mr. Bennett's personal image," she said coldly. From now on, Elena is Rose. Elena was a nun. Rose is a woman. Elena was whisked away to try on dozens of dresses, from Dolce & Gabbana to Carolina Herrera. Claire oversaw every move. Straighten your shoulders. Don't smile like a country girl. Look in the mirror. You are a product. You must be perfect. This is not a monastery. This is Boston. On the first day, she dined at the upscale Capitol Grill. Alexander sat across from her, raising a glass of Bordeaux. Beautiful, he said, eyes fixed on her. Now I know red suits you. But by the third day, her phone was confiscated for security reasons. The windows in her room had automatic locks. It's just so you won't be disturbed, Alexander said lightly. We live privately. You understand, right? Elena nodded, though a faint unease stirred in her heart. One evening, she asked, "Could I call Sister Clara, just for a minute?" Alexander's eyes sharpened. Have you forgotten you're no longer Elena? You are Rose, and Rose has no family. That night he asked her to wear a school uniform. Short skirt, white shirt, black ribbon. Claire handed her the outfit with a cold statement. He likes it that way. Don't ask why. A week later, at the grandest winter party, Elena wore a tight leather dress and a choker like a leash. Alexander whispered, "You're a jewel. Your job is to make me proud." She smiled mechanically, as if programmed. In the mirror, a stranger stared back. One gray morning in Boston, Elena stood before a mirror, her hair curled per Claire's instructions. She wore a sapphire mermaid gown, adorned with hundreds of tiny glittering crystals, chosen by Alexander himself. "Smile," Claire said, holding a makeup kit. "No one pays for a blank face. You are a jewel. Shine." Elena tried to smile, but it was soulless. "I feel suffocated," she said. "I want to go outside to breathe." Claire applied red lipstick to her lips. "Have you forgotten? You only go out with an escort. No escort, no permission." The door clicked shut, the electronic lock engaging. Elena sat, her hands trembling. That night, at a lavish charity gala, the girls were posed like dolls in themed zones, from classic elegance to modern beauty. Elena stood in the dark angel zone. Black lace dress, smoky eyes, pale violet lips. Alexander approached, beaming. "Stunning. Now you understand why I call you Rose. You're no longer Elena." "Who makes these rules?" Elena asked, her voice steady. "You or Claire?" "Rules?" He tilted his head. "These aren't rules. This is art. The art of controlling beauty." At the bar, Elena saw another girl, brown hair, slender frame, eyes like shattered glass. Her name was Isabel. "You just arrived," Elena whispered. 3 months, Isabel murmured, staring at her drink. "Long enough to know. No one escapes here." Elena froze. Isabel leaned closer, her lips brushing Elena's ear. "Don't resist. Don't trust. Anyone but yourself. If you try to contact the outside world, you'll be transferred." "Transferred where?" "Nevada, Las Vegas. The high-end clients love girls with religious backgrounds, like you." A chill ran down Elena's spine. She turned to see Claire staring, her eyes sharp as razors. "Smile, Rose," Claire said coldly, stepping forward. "You're making Mr. Bennett look bad." A week later, Elena noticed Bethany, a blonde girl who once studied medicine, had vanished. When she asked, the maid stayed silent. A young servant, named Ethan, only shook his head. "She was transferred. I wasn't told the details." "Who transferred her? Why?" "Claire said she became difficult to train." Elena began watching those around her closely. At the parties, the girls were stunning but spoke softly, their eyes vacant, like dolls with their emotional nerves severed. Chloe, another girl, whispered to Elena on a balcony. "Be careful with Alexander. He's not just a businessman. He hunts girls who seem pure. Why does he do it? Money, power, control. But it's not just him. Behind him is Lawrence. Whitaker. Elena frowned. Whitaker. I heard Sister Clara mention that name before. A tycoon. No, Chloe said. A puppeteer. No paper dares mention him. What we see is only the mask of hell. One late evening, Elena slipped out to a rarely visited third-floor balcony. The cold wind carried the distant music from downstairs, echoing like a cry from a deep abyss. She pulled aside the curtain and gazed at Boston's dazzling lights. Tears fell. Sister Clara's words echoed in her mind. Faith doesn't disappear. It just gets covered in dust. Elena whispered, If you can still hear me, Lord, please send me a sign. No voice answered, only the cold wind brushing through her hair. The next morning, Claire entered with 2 women in white, wearing dark glasses. Today's your scheduled health check. I'm fine. That's not necessary, Elena said. This is mandatory. You're $1 million asset. You must be well maintained. Elena was forced onto an exam table. One woman injected something into her arm. What's that? Just a supplement, Claire replied coldly. You need to appear more supple for the upcoming events. A numbness spread through Elena's arm. Her mind spun. When she woke, she was back in bed. The room glowing with dim yellow light. A shadow stood at the door. Isabel. They gave you a light sedative, checked your vitals, pulse, and mental state. Mental state? Yeah, they don't like anyone showing resistance. One day, as Elena rearranged clothes, Claire entered and tossed a Japanese-style schoolgirl uniform onto the bed. Mr. Bennett wants you to wear this tonight. Why is it always these bizarre outfits? VIP clients are watching from afar. Some have specific tastes. You know what you have that they want, don't you? I'm not a toy. No, Claire said. You're luxury merchandise. That's the difference. Elena clenched her fists. Isabel cast a warning glance. That evening, Elena sat next to a strange man with a beard, tanned skin, and gold rings on his fingers. My name is Andrew Marshall, he said in a deep voice. I work for Whitaker. I don't care, Elena replied coldly. Oh, but you will, because in a few months, you'll be the first item auctioned in Las Vegas. Elena froze. Andrew raised his wine glass with a grin. Don't worry. My clients love girls with religious backgrounds. They call it the primal soul. She stood abruptly and stumbled away, but Claire blocked her path. Where are you going? Rose? I can't. I don't want this anymore. Too late. You belong to the system now. Do you think leaving is that easy? Claire leaned in and whispered, If you cause trouble, you'll disappear like Bethany. But if you behave, you'll be a very valuable asset. Elena sat alone in her room, staring at the door. The night was silent, yet full of invisible screams. She scribbled on a scrap of paper and hid it inside the mattress. If anyone finds this, my name is Elena. I once lived in the Vermont monastery. I was deceived. Please save me. But she knew without a miracle no one would find it. 3 days after the haunting party, Elena began planning her escape, not because she believed she could succeed, but because doing nothing meant dying while still alive. One early morning, while head chef Edward Grant inspected the ovens, Elena approached, her voice trembling. Sir, I have a stomach ache. Could I get some ginger? What's wrong? He asked, frowning. A bit of pain, maybe a slight fever. I'm afraid of spreading it. Edward sighed and turned to get the medicine box. In that moment, Elena stole a phone hidden under his apron, an old device with cracked edges. She kept her heartbeat steady. Back. In her room, she locked the door and powered on the phone. The screen flickered but worked. No signal, just a few saved numbers. She found Sister Clara's and pressed call. Her heart pounded like war drums. Hello? A familiar woman's voice. "Sister Clara, it's me, Elena." "Elena, oh God. Where are you?" "Please help me. I'm being held in Boston with Alexander Bennett." Beep, beep, beep. The call dropped. The screen went black. Elena stared in despair. The door burst open. Claire stormed in, her face expressionless. "You just did something very stupid." Two large men followed. Elena was dragged from the room, her hands bound with plastic ties. "What are you doing? I just wanted to call the monastery. I didn't hurt anyone." "You called the one place that could dig your grave," Claire said icily. "We monitor all transmissions." In a dark room, Elena was strapped to a leather chair. A large screen loomed before her. Alexander walked in, dressed in a deep black suit, holding a glass of red wine. "I'm truly disappointed." "I just want to be free," Elena screamed. "Free?" he smirked. "You were once a nun. Now you're my property." He snapped his fingers. The screen lit up, showing girls being beaten, screaming, loaded onto unmarked planes. One was Bethany, her head shaved, eyes swollen. Another was tied into a wooden crate labeled "Transfer to Las Vegas, $2 million." Elena wept, trembling violently. "No, not her, please, no." "That's the price of betrayal," Alexander said. "And you nearly got sent today. But I still have a fondness for you." Elena gritted her teeth. "Fondness? You're torturing me like an animal." "No, Elena. I'm teaching you to accept reality." He gestured, and a man pulled out an electric clipper. "No, please don't." Buzz. Half her head was shaved bald, hair falling like feathers onto the icy cement floor. "Why? Why would you do this?" she sobbed. "When the soul refuses to obey, we reset the mind. You're about to be sent somewhere more fitting." Elena was taken to a concrete-walled room with no windows, just a metal bed and a surveillance camera, a place called the Psychological Adjustment Room. The first day, no one spoke. On the second, a woman appeared, gray-streaked hair, eyes sharp as blades. "Hello," she said. "I'm Margaret." Elena stared. "Margaret Reed, it's you. You were at the Vermont monastery. You went missing 4 years ago." "Yes," Margaret smiled. "And now I bring roses into the real world." "Why are you here? How could you do this to people who were once God's children?" "Because I once believed in God," Margaret said. "But he didn't save me from being raped for the first time at that monastery." Elena shook her head. "Not everyone is a monster." "So naive," Margaret said with a cold laugh. "That naivety of yours is exactly what keeps this system running. You think the wealthy care about your soul? No, they pay because you were once a nun. I'm a spy, a recruited insider. I seek out girls who appear virtuous, innocent. Then I make them question, abandon their faith. Claire and Alexander handle the rest." Elena clutched her head, breathing hard. "I've been such a fool. I betrayed the people who loved me. I walked into hell with my own feet." "No," Margaret whispered. "You're a special rose. We chose you very carefully. And Sister Clara, where is she? Is she being watched?" Margaret smirked. "If she tries to find you, she'll disappear too. Don't you get it? This is an empire. Police, courts, even bishops are in Whitaker's pocket." 3 days later, Elena showed signs of severe panic, seizures at the sound of locks clicking, insomnia when the lights went out. She was forced to take medication and watch psychological conditioning videos. You are Rose. You are your master's gem. Your master knows what you shew more than you do. Freedom is an illusion. Safety is submission. One night, when the camera blinked off for a minute due to a technical issue, Margaret sat beside Elena's bed. "I was once like you, Elena, swayed by sweet words, thinking the world beyond stone walls was more beautiful. But I learned the hard way. Love doesn't save. Power does." "You're wrong," Elena whispered. "I don't believe that. I still believe in love, in God." "God doesn't come here, Elena. God doesn't dare step into this basement. The next morning, Claire appeared, nodding in satisfaction. Soft enough. Ready for the next level of training. Where am I going? Basement level 5. Elena's eyes were blindfolded as she was led into an internal transport vehicle. In her heart, she prayed one last time. Lord, if you can see me, please forgive me. The metal elevator vibrated as it descended deep underground. The darkness was so thick, Elena felt her breath being choked. Claire stood beside her, holding a blood-red access card, silent. I won't obey, Elena whispered, eyes shut tight. Oh, you will, Claire replied coldly. Here, everyone obeys, or disappears. The door opened to a long hallway with bare concrete walls and flickering fluorescent lights. 2 men in black uniforms approached and dragged Elena without a word. Welcome to Level 5, one said, his name tag reading David Logan. This is where illusions go to die. Elena was shoved into a large room with freezing metal flooring. In each corner stood a glass chamber, each containing a woman, some young, some middle-aged, some trembling, others sitting still, hollow as corpses. A brown-haired girl had wires running from her head to her spine, repeating provocative phrases into a microphone. Do you want to play with me? Do you want to touch me? I'm your love slave forever. Claire glanced at Elena and smirked. That's Level 3 training. They're relearning how to communicate. Market standard. They're people, not machines, Elena hissed. Exactly, Claire replied. That's why they can be programmed. A gray-haired woman in a white lab coat approached. Lucy Morgan, behavior modification specialist. Miss Elena, your file is fascinating. I'm not that name. Of course not. You're Rose, Lucy smiled. I read your file. Religious background, virgin, angelic voice. The Las Vegas market pays top dollar. Elena turned pale. Do you people have no conscience? Conscience doesn't make money, Claire interrupted. Money feeds the system. They walked Elena down a hallway lined with glass rooms containing beds, voice mod systems, and 360-degree cameras. She saw one girl tied up, eyes wide, devices attached to her temples. A screen beside her bed read, Processing result, 78% compliance, ready for sale. Claire stopped at a steel door engraved with Customization Unit 14C. This is your room. No, I'm not going in there. Then we'll drag you. Elena was shoved inside. The room contained only a table, a steel chair, and a wall-mounted screen. On the table sat her file, her name in bold. Elena, also known as Rose. Premium. Product. Religious background. Special demand. At the bottom, a handwritten note. VIP client number 27. Special request for Christian-educated female, willing to pay $2 million. Elena burst into tears. Claire stood silently, then said quietly, Crying changes nothing. Acceptance is the only path to survival. The next day, Elena was led to a training room where 6 other girls sat in what resembled an accelerated classroom. Instead of math or languages, they learned to generate pleasure through looks, posture, and smiles. A tan-skinned girl with wavy, black hair smiled gently at Elena. First time? Don't worry. I'm Chloe. I used to be a lawyer in El Paso. Why are you here? I trusted a man named Rodrigo, just like your Alexander. Elena clenched her fists. She saw Isabel learning sensual breathing techniques. After the session, Chloe whispered, I've heard there's a resistance group. A few girls have escaped, but you need proof. Client lists. Everything's encrypted. Who can help? There's someone. Simon, the data tech manager for Whitaker. But don't trust him 100%. Elena realized survival meant more than prayer alone. That night, she was summoned to an interview booth. On the screen appeared a man in a leather mask, revealing only his mouth. I am client number 27, he said, his voice deep and cold. I chose you for your innocence, for the clarity in your eyes. I'm not an object, Elena said firmly. You're a symbol, he replied. A nun fallen into darkness. It's the perfect symphony for weary souls like mine. Turned away, refusing to respond. Claire entered. Good, he's pleased. The transaction will be finalized in a week. I'm not going anywhere. Oh, you will, Claire smiled. If not for yourself, then for others. Do you know if you resist, Chloe will be eliminated first? Elena froze. In her room's darkness, she found an old photo in her file and scribbled on the back. If someone finds this, this is level 5. They train us like animals. Please stop them. She stuffed the note into the heel of her shoe, a sliver of hope. Sometimes that's all it takes. 8 days later, Claire and Margaret entered with a simple white dress, high heels, and a small suitcase. The time has come, Claire said, emotionless. You're being transferred to the Las Vegas Rehabilitation Facility. Elena sat motionless, her heart no longer racing, adjusted to a rhythm of slow death. She spoke hoarsely. May I write a farewell letter to the woman I once called mother? All letters are reviewed, Margaret said coldly. But if it helps you cooperate, write. Claire nodded. Elena's hand shook as she wrote, Sister Clara, if you're alive to read this, please forgive me. I took one wrong step, and every path since has led deeper into hell. If anyone remains at the monastery, don't trust any benefactor claiming to be of God. They are wolves in holy robes. She folded the letter and looked at Margaret. You once believed in God, didn't you? I did, Margaret replied, until he let me be sold for less than a thoroughbred horse. At 1 a.m., Elena was led to a black car behind the mansion. She wore the white dress, a thin scarf over her head, heels trembling. David sat in the driver's seat, holding documents and a Glock pistol at his hip. Chloe hugged Elena from behind. You don't deserve this fate, she whispered. But if you survive, burn it all down. Chloe, what about you? I'll live the best I can. But you, Elena, you still have a voice. Eyes that haven't gone dark. The world needs you. Claire's voice cut in, sharp as a blade. That's enough. Don't turn this goodbye into a cheap drama. The car door slammed shut. Elena sat in the back, staring at the mansion she once thought was a palace of gold, now realizing it was a velvet-wrapped hell. On the way to Interstate 93, fog thickened. David listened to soft classical music, silent. Elena leaned against the misted window, watching buildings pass like doors she could never open. At an intersection near Brookline, she spotted a white truck stopped at a red light, its side printed with orphanage and spiritual shelter. She froze. Stop the car. That's the monastery. Vermont. Calm down, David frowned. It's nothing important. Stop. It's them. They're there. Elena pounded the glass. Please, stop the car. The truck moved. Through the glass, Elena glimpsed a woman in the passenger seat, her hair wrapped in a white nun's veil. Laura, her childhood friend. Laura, it's me! Elena! Laura! She screamed, pounding frantically, tears streaming down her face. Stop! That's the monastery. It's them! Shut up, you lunatic! David hissed. 1 more hour, and you'll belong to another world. Elena watched the truck disappear behind buildings. Laura never turned her head. Elena collapsed, her screams fading into broken gasps, like a newborn who'd lost its mother. The car drove on in silence. Elena didn't lift her head, her eyes hollow, lips pressed so tightly they bled. You know, David said finally, his voice low, if it were up to me, I'd let you go. Elena didn't answer. Near dawn, the car pulled into a hidden checkpoint. Elena was dragged out and handed to an international transfer team. A man in sunglasses holding a clipboard asked, This is Rose, right? Yes, Claire confirmed over the phone. Class A asset, fully verified. Maintain current sedation protocol. Is she still conscious? For now, but if necessary, you know what to do. Elena was loaded into a new vehicle. She closed, Her eyes, no prayer, no resistance, nothing left to lose. That same morning at the Vermont monastery, Sister Clara received an anonymous letter, marked only to the mother of the lost roses. She opened it, reading the trembling handwriting. I took one wrong step, and every path since has led straight to hell. Sister Clara broke down in tears. Elsewhere in a surveillance room, Margaret replayed footage of Elena pounding the window, calling out to Laura. Claire approached, noting the desperation in Elena's eyes. Perfect. Send this to VIP client. Number 27. He'll love it. What about the footage of Laura? Margaret asked. Should we delete it? No need. They'll never see each other again. What Elena saw was just her final glimpse of light before it goes out. Tires screeched against steel pavement. An armored truck marked private and humanitarian airways turned into the special cargo terminal of a private airport in southern Boston. It was still dark, but floodlights blazed and security staff's footsteps echoed rhythmically. Elena sat silently between two hulking men, her wrists cuffed to the seat rail, a steel tracking collar locked around her neck. Her face was pale, her hair disheveled, dark circles under her eyes. She no longer resembled the premium product rose they once advertised. Why is she still awake? The man on her right asked Thomas quietly. Client number 27 was clear. No sedation until after takeoff. He wants to observe everything she does. Disgusting. All of Whitaker's clients are disgusting. Elena turned and stared at Thomas. My name is Elena, not Rose. If you have a daughter, don't ever let her fall into hands like yours. I don't have a daughter, Thomas replied. And I don't get to choose my job. But you can choose how it ends. There's no paycheck for that choice. The plane cabin was a luxury lounge, leather seats, wine, Baroque music. But in the center was a special chair for the VIP. Asset, hands chained to the armrests, collar locked, legs clamped with magnetic cuffs. David, now in full security uniform, did a final check. You'll sleep for the first 3 hours. When you wake, you'll be in Las Vegas. I'm not sleeping, Elena replied, her eyes dry. I've slept too long inside an illusion. He hesitated, then slipped a thin leather cord into her hand. Tie it around your wrist. If the time comes when you'd rather choose how it ends, pull hard. Why are you helping me? Because your eyes last night. They looked just like my sister's, right before she took her own life. The engines roared. The plane lifted off. Elena peered through the window, catching one last look at America. No churches, no crosses, only endless shadows trailing behind. The cabin lights dimmed, leaving a faint green glow. A screen flicked on, showing a video. Welcome to the International Rehabilitation Facility. Here you will relearn how to love yourself by serving others. Freedom is belief. Submission is truth. Elena stared, unblinking, murmuring, This is hell, and I bought a first-class ticket. After landing at a secluded airstrip outside Las Vegas, the heat hit Elena's face like fire. A woman in a luxurious black cloak, with a uniform and metal badge beneath, waited. Director Rachel Alston, she said in a crisp British accent. Rose, we've been expecting you. I'm a human being. Humanity has value only when it knows how to serve. Rachel gestured. 2 female guards seized Elena and dragged her through a steel gate inscribed in gold. The Silken House, for the chosen few. Inside, Elena was stripped, forcibly bathed in antiseptic, and brought to a white windowless room. A tall woman in rubber gloves entered, Dr. Emily Harper, chief physician. Neurological check stable for now, an assistant said. Responsive, no immediate suicide tendency. Good. Administer the first dose. Schedule voice response. Calibration for tomorrow morning. Elena sat on the bed in a thin linen gown, silent. Emily approached. No reaction. Because I don't know what I am anymore to react as. Good. That makes you easier to shape. That night, Elena was left alone. On the wall, a phrase was carved. May his will be fulfilled. She let out a dry laugh. His will. The air conditioning whistled like a tomb cracking open. Elena pulled the blanket over her head, curled up, and cried silently. Yet beneath, the despair, a faint pulse of life still beat, not extinguished. The next morning, a guard led her to the voice response training room. On the screen was client number 27, masked, seated on a golden throne. I want to hear you sing. I have no voice left. Sing, or Chloe will be brought here in your place. Elena closed her eyes. Her voice rose, trembling, thin as thread. Hail Mary, full of grace. Client number 27 smiled. Perfect, innocence laced with despair. A living mythic symphony. She stopped, her eyes like knives. If you have a daughter, I pray God gives her the fate I'm enduring. He laughed heartily. That night, Thomas appeared, posing as a food delivery worker, and slipped a note through the door slit. Day 17, 2 a.m., East Gate. If you dare to run, run. If not, stop hoping. Elena's fingers trembled as she stared at the words. Dare to run, or keep dying slowly. She looked up, whispering, God, if you're still out there, give me a chance. Just one. On the 17th night at the Silken House, the windowless room exhaled a coffin-like chill. Elena sat against the wall, hugging her knees, eyes fixed on the ceiling clock. 1:41. 19 minutes to 2 a.m. Thomas's note lay beneath the mattress, read countless times. She gripped David's leather cord, her breaths fast, heart pounding. Like a drum. Stay calm. It's just one door, one step, she whispered. God, if you can see me, please. She didn't finish, her lips bleeding from biting them. At 1:59, Elena stepped out. The door was unlocked. The hallway was deserted, only the faint buzz of fluorescent lights above. She ran, bare feet pounding the icy stone floor. White rooms blurred past like ghosts. The east door appeared, a flickering green light glowing, behind frosted glass. Elena rushed forward, hands trembling as she tried the mechanical lock. It wouldn't budge. No, it can't be. Not a fake door. Footsteps echoed behind her, each striking like a nail into a coffin. She turned. Rachel stood with 2 female guards, her face expressionless. Surprised it didn't open? Rachel said, pulling out her phone. Truth is, Thomas never meant to help you. He was bait to test your reaction. Elena backed away, her face pale, voice cracking. You knew I would run. Rachel raised a hand. The guards grabbed Elena. She thrashed, screaming, I'm not Rose. I'm Elena. I'm Elena. You were Elena, Rachel said. But Elena died the day you stepped out of that monastery. Thud. A punch landed in her stomach. Elena doubled over, her vision blurring. The world spun. When she regained consciousness, she was chained to a metal bed, the tracking collar back on her neck, her mouth sealed with tape. The overhead light blinded her. Claire, freshly flown from Boston in an ash-gray suit, stood beside her. I didn't think you'd be this stupid, she said coldly. Do you know client number 27 could cancel his contract if he finds out you tried to escape? Elena tried to scream, but the tape muffled everything. Luckily for you, he was amused, Claire continued. He said, a product is only worth something once it's tasted freedom and lost it. She leaned in, whispering, You think you're brave, but you're a caged bird, and this cage doesn't have locks, only habits. She signaled a staff member to inject a drug. Elena thrashed one last time. Her body numbed. When she opened her eyes, she was in a larger, luxurious room, empty except for a full-length mirror and a microphone hanging from the ceiling. A voice echoed, This is the assimilation phase. Before auction, you will rehearse your walk, voice, and physical responsiveness. Each morning, she was forced to stand before the mirror and repeat, "I'm ready. I want to serve. I am beautiful because I belong." If her expression wasn't convincing, an alarm sounded, the floor vibrated, and a light shock pulsed through her collar. Each red light blink reminded her of Sister Clara's words, a rose among cold stones. Now, she was a wilted rose among ashes. One day Margaret arrived, no longer in a lab coat but wearing black with a senior operations badge. She stood behind the glass, never entering. "You don't understand why I do this, do you?" "No," Elena rasped, her voice barely audible. "I thought you once had a heart." "I did. Then it broke, and no one taught me how to mend it. So now you teach me how to die slowly." "No, I teach you how to live without needing to believe in anyone, not even God." Elena stared, her eyes dry. "You're wrong, because right now, I know he's still here." "Oh, then why hasn't he saved you?" "Because he's watching. Watching people like you." That night, Elena was bathed, dressed, and made up. The gold-tinged dress was nearly transparent. Claire inspected her, nodding. "Now you're worthy. Tomorrow you'll be presented, and this time, failure is not an option." Elena didn't respond. Inside, something burned. Not hope, but primal instinct, silent rebellion. She was escorted to a lavish room for her first in-person meeting with client number 27. The room had two-way mirrors, hidden cameras, and a single velvet chair at the center. Claire whispered before leaving, "Smile, bow your head, and remember you're the gem." Elena entered. The lights switched on. A man in a mask sat across from her, silent, staring. She raised her head. No smile, no fear, only a whisper. "Look, closely. This is what you wanted to own." She closed her eyes. No one in Whitaker's system expected that night. The night Elena was to be presented would be the moment everything collapsed. No one except Mother Superior Mary. 10 months earlier, at the Vermont monastery, Sister Clara received the anonymous letter with trembling handwriting. She wasn't alone. Mother Superior Mary, a silver-haired nun with piercing eyes who rarely appeared in public, read it line by line, unflinching. "The girl is alive," she whispered, "and God has given us a mission." Sister Clara, shaken, asked, "What do we do? She's fallen so far." "We act," Mary replied firmly. "Faith isn't waiting for miracles. Faith is becoming the miracle." An investigation began, led by the Daughters of Light, a team of nuns, former police officers, doctors, and intelligence agents devoted to faith. They contacted U.S. DOJ, providing records and blueprints of the facilities. The names Alexander Bennett, Claire Whitmore, and Lawrence Whitaker were added to a surveillance list. Sister Laura, the one Elena glimpsed in the truck, was a critical link. "I saw her," Laura later told Sister Clara. "Elena screamed, but I couldn't stop. If I had, we would have lost everything." Mother Superior placed a hand on Laura's shoulder. "You didn't fail. Now I will stop for her." The night of reckoning, Las Vegas, 3:06 a.m. Level 3 of the Silken House trembled in an underground quake. The power cut out. Surveillance screens flickered, then went dark. At the main gate, a group in maintenance uniforms entered. A guard barely asked, "Who are you?" Before the leader removed her goggles, her eyes ice. "Mary, Mother Superior, I've come to bring God's daughter home." Two nuns produced U.S. DOJ cooperation badges. "This facility is marked. You're under arrest for human trafficking, torture, smuggling, and international money laundering." Lights in the rehabilitation zone flickered. Alarms blared. Whitaker's staff scattered in chaos. In the interface room where Elena sat across from client number 27, the auxiliary lights died. The screen went blank. Gunshots rang out in the distance. Footsteps, voices in English, Arabic, Spanish. "Hands up! Freeze! Drop your weapon! Hands in the air now! The door burst open. Elena closed her eyes, certain she was about to be taken. Again! Elena! A powerful, familiar, commanding voice rang out. You are God's rose. Now rise, my child. Elena opened her eyes. Mother Superior Mary stood before her, flanked by 2 nuns in tactical armor with tranquilizer guns. You're real, Elena stammered. More real than anyone who ever claimed to love you. Mary undid the restraints. We're going home. Elena collapsed, sobbing uncontrollably. Downstairs, Claire was captured in the control room. A nun kicked the gun from her hand as she tried to draw it. You think dying will cleanse your sins, Claire? The nun said, holding the muzzle to Claire's temple. You know nothing, Whitaker. Whitaker is being dragged from his penthouse into a prison van, Mary said, appearing behind her. No one shields the devil today. Claire smirked. That girl belongs to us. No, Mary said, locking eyes. She belongs to the light, and you will pay. Claire was handcuffed and escorted out with dozens of others. In another room, Margaret stood before the data server, trying to download files to an external drive. A nun entered, weapon raised. How ironic, Margaret said. I used to believe in God like you. And you chose to sell people like yourself, the nun replied. Because I was once a victim. You just what? Made others into victims too? The server was disconnected, data backed up, and sent to US DOJ. Margaret was arrested, her eyes hollow. Why don't you kill me? Because forgiveness is the last thing I have to offer you. But justice must still be done. Outside, 18 women held captive were rescued, led to medical vans, each wrapped in a white fleece blanket. Tears, smiles, and panic mingled on their faces. Chloe hugged Elena tightly. You didn't die. Neither did you, Elena said, trembling. We still have each other. Sister Laura stepped forward, her voice breaking. Forgive me. I saw you that day and I couldn't stop. I know. I understand. Because of you, I was saved from this place. As the sun rose, Elena sat in the van, a shawl around her shoulders. Mary sat beside her, holding her hand. You were watching over me, Elena asked softly. I never took my eyes off you. Why did you still believe in me after everything? Because faith doesn't disappear. It only gathers dust. And you are still God's rose. Elena broke down in tears, not from pain, but because her tears finally had a reason to fall. 2 years later, in Princeton's historic square beneath old maple trees, a digital sign read, Public Lecture, Elena Walker, From Faith to the Gilded. Cage. Crowds poured into the university auditorium. On stage, a woman stepped forward. Short hair, elegant white suit, a small wooden cross pinned to her chest. It was Elena, no longer Rose, no longer a prisoner, but a survivor. Thunderous applause erupted. Cameras from major news outlets turned toward her. She adjusted the mic, her voice soft but ringing like steel. Good evening. My name is Elena Walker. I was once labeled a premium product for special demand. A murmur ran through the hall. I was sold. I was programmed like a machine. I was turned into a doll. Her gaze swept the audience, hundreds frozen in silence. I survived, but thousands didn't. They were women like me, students, nuns, doctors, single mothers. They weren't saved. I stand here because a group of people refused to sit still. In the front row, Mother Superior Mary smiled quietly, beside Sister Clara and Sister Laura. At the press briefing, a New York Times journalist asked, Miss Elena, why didn't you return to the monastery? Because I spent half my life there, she replied. Now I need to walk among the world to carry the light for those still lost in the dark. Another journalist asked, Your memoir, From Faith to the Gilded Cage, shocked the nation. Do you regret revealing so many truths? I didn't write to seek revenge. I wrote so no one else would be silenced the way I once was. Chloe, now a program coordinator, sat beside Elena and added, "We founded an organization called Voices Once Silenced. Every survivor is a storyteller." Their main office in an old Charleston building features a large photograph. Elena embracing. A young woman just rescued, both in tears. Claire Whitmore is serving a 36-year sentence with no parole. During an interrogation, she said, "If I'd known Elena would rise again, I would have drowned her on day one." Lawrence Whitaker was extradited to Chicago, facing 12 international charges, his assets seized, his network dismantled. Alexander Bennett died in prison 3 months later. Cause of death, unexplained asphyxiation. Some say suicide. Elena said simply, "Those who sow hell eventually burn in the fire they ignite." One afternoon, Elena sat with Mother Mary on the monastery lawn, the maple tree still lush. "Do you think you'll return to the religious life?" Mary asked, holding a teacup. "No, Mother. I think God doesn't just live in stone walls." "Where do you think he lives?" "In the hands of those who pulled me back up. He lives in the women who were sold but never gave in." "He lives in you." Mary nodded. "I used to think faith was silence, but thanks to you, I know faith can also roar." A week later, Elena received an invitation to speak at the United Nations on human trafficking. She sat quietly, then nodded. That night she called Chloe. "I think I'm ready to step into the world." "You stepped out long ago. Now it's time to step up." At the UN, the entire hall stood and applauded as Elena entered, wearing a simple black dress, a rosary from the monastery in her hand. At the podium, she ignored the prepared speech and spoke from the heart. "The day I was pulled out of basement, level 5, I didn't know who I was. I thought I had died, that my soul had been erased." She paused, her eyes meeting those of a teenage girl in the front row. Messy hair, faint scars on her wrists. But no one can kill the light. It can only be hidden, by walls, by collars, by words sharp as whips. But light always finds a crack. Her voice grew strong. "I didn't lose my faith. I learned that God doesn't dwell only in stone walls. He lives in the hands of those who dare pull others from the dark. One clap, then two." The entire auditorium rose. Some cried, some nodded, some reached for the hand beside them. After the event, the teenage girl approached, hands shaking. Wearing a school uniform, her face marked by pain. "You used to be me. I read your book. I'm trying not to end things." Elena placed a hand on her shoulder. "You didn't. You came here. That's a victory. How do I stop being afraid?" "You don't have to stop being afraid. You just have to stop stepping back because of fear. And if you ever fall, just call. We'll come." In her journal, Elena wrote, "I no longer live to be pitied. I live to prove that no matter how broken, a soul that refuses to be sold will always find its way back. I am Elena, and I am the voice of those once forced into silence." Elena's story is a stark warning against sophisticated human trafficking schemes disguised as charity and cloaked in religion. It shows that faith placed in the wrong hands leads to hell, but true faith, placed rightly, can redeem a soul. Even when shattered, human dignity cannot be erased. The greatest lesson: silence protects no one. Only action and the courage to speak bring justice. Elena did not just survive. She became the light for those still wandering in the dark. Thanks for sticking with the story until the end. If you enjoyed it, give this a like and share if you haven't already, and subscribe. For more